Welcome to the SPS Digital Learning Hour, brought to you by the Digital Learning and Assessment Department. We're coming to you from a conference room in Central Office, bringing you the latest news in Springfield Public Schools in regards to technology, along with inspiring interviews from teachers who are using technology in the classroom. We'll also inform you the latest updates, practices, and news as it pertains to our district. Whether you are new to using technology in the classroom or a seasoned vet, we are here to help. Thanks for joining us today. I am your host, Mike Thomas, and in case you missed it, out on my learning plan, we have a whole bunch of unified classroom drop-ins scheduled for you, and they will be very helpful because we will be there to answer any questions you have, help you accomplish the things you're looking to accomplish. Along with unified classroom, we do have some updates on features that are coming soon. The next release will include things like edit assignments directly in Unified Classroom, activity feed performance enhancements. I'm not sure what that means, but there's a video out on PowerSource which you can go and check out. The ability to access learning domain controls without a separate account. Many assessment improvements, including reserved content for high-stakes testing. That's more for us at the district office than you as a classroom teacher. Export, release third-party content, create, deliver, and score key-type offline assessments, ability to duplicate assessment items, change management controls, and a whole bunch more. So out on PowerSource, which there are directions out on Yammer on how to access PowerSource, there is a lot of great things, including a video which walks you through all the updates, and then there's even a test drive on the staging environment. What that is it gives you a chance to see those new tools in action. It allows you to practice using them before they get added into the course. There's also a section where new features and release notes are listed. And of course, this is the place to go if you need more assistance and we're not able to answer your questions on Yammer. In case you missed it, the latest blog post out on We Learn is all about wiki projects and how to use them in the classroom. What you might not have known is that wiki is a fun way to engage students and access content across the curriculum. One of the neat things is that the word wiki comes from Hawaii. I bet you did not know that. I didn't until I did the research to find out what a wiki project is. Out on the blog post, there are ways that you can use wikis in your classroom that are fun and exciting. I put out just 4 examples that are very easy to add into your class at any time. Wikis, of course, is something that you create through the global Create button. In case you missed it, Minecraft for Education is available to everybody. You can go out to the IT Hub and download it. I personally have not started to play with it yet because I've been doing so much work with Unified Classroom. I can't wait over the next couple months to really dig in and see how I can use it in the classroom and how you can use it in the classroom and share that with you. In case you missed it, Twitter can be a great tool as a teacher for you to go out and find resources and learn about ways that other teachers are using technology in the classroom. I know many of us have gotten on the Pinterest board and Pinterest is a board, but the Pinterest bandwagon and use that to create a lot of singular lessons that fit within a unit. Well, out on Twitter, there are people who talk about all the great tools that we use in the district, along with other tools that you might not have heard of before. There's a lot of great ways to get professional development, get those PDP points, ways to help boost up your seeds. One of the things I recently learned out on Twitter was the update to the learning tools availability in all of the Microsoft products. So I've got this great chart. If you find me on Twitter, Bearded Tech Ed Guy, you will see this chart in amongst the other posts that I have. But essentially, it goes through and it tells you what programs have, for example, picture dictionary, dictation, parts of speech, syllables, page colors, spacing and font size, read aloud, word, and word line highlighting. Now, there is a plethora of programs. The biggest update to this list was the fact that Flipgrid, one of the tools that is available through Office 365, has now received many of these updates for the accessibility features. If you want to learn more about the deployment guide and the learning tool availability, you can go to aka.ms/inclusive deployment. That's it for In Case You Missed It. Coming up next is Mike's ISTE Minute. One of the big challenges these days, and something that's fairly new for teachers since social media and social media tools are fairly new, is making sure that students are digital citizens and making sure that they know how to properly act online. Too often we find there's a lot of disrespectful and unhelpful things that happen out online. Whether it's using Twitter or Snapchat or Gab or name your newest tool Facebook. Back in the day it was MySpace. But with the proliferation of digital tools, one of the things that needs to happen, or else we're going to continue down the negativity train, is that we're teaching digital citizenship all the time. And I know for me, one of the very first things that I tried to teach was before you post, think. And using think as an acronym, and I'm sure if you went out there, you'd find this post everywhere with every sort of connection, but with a way to think about this is the word think. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it nice? Is it kind? If you think about those things before you post something, I guarantee you will already be 10 steps ahead on being a digital citizen. If you get your students to think about those things before they start posting, they will, in turn, become digital citizens, or they will be at least on their way. That's a very good starting point. And if we can even show them and teach them that this is how you should act, then I think that takes away a lot of issues that we might be experiencing in the classroom, and they might be experiencing with each other. Common Sense Media has a humongous section on digital citizenship. I know we created courses in our Brightspace which help teach a lot of these digital citizen skills, and through that, we have the ability to teach this when it is extremely important, because this is where our students operate a lot. I know for the final year of teaching, the school I was at, I had more behavior problems with things that happened outside of the classroom, and primarily things that happened online. And I know that for me, I needed to take time and actually teach some of these skills. So that is my ISTE Minute. Of course, my minutes are always longer than a minute. I should say minutes. Coming up next is our interview of the week with Patricia Caliento of Mary Lynch Elementary. So our interview of the week is with Patricia Caliento of Mary Lynch. She's a 5th grade teacher doing some amazing things, and we caught up with her earlier this year in the classroom. School had not been in session for very long, and of course, if you know how 5th grade works in the district, you know that there's a couple of key field trips. There's the Echoes field trip, and then there's Bonnie's Island. In the beginning of the year, they actually did their Echoes field trip fairly early, so it was a great bonding experience for their class, and they were just getting into using a lot of cool technology. So take a listen to the interview. I hope you're inspired like I was.
I am Patricia Caliento. I am a 4th year teacher at Mary Lynch. I previously taught at Kensington, so this is my 2nd year here at Mary Lynch School. Fun fact, I went to Springfield Public Schools for myself, so I am a product of this city.
So you have been in Springfield as a student, and now as a teacher. Out of curiosity, did you student teach in Springfield too?
Yes, I did. I did my student teaching at Boland, but when I was in elementary school, I went to Rebecca Johnson, then Vansicle, and SciTech.
You've been in the district for a long time, which I didn't know that before we started. So I'm going to ask you, as a student, what do you remember about using technology in the classroom?
At Rebecca Johnson, I distinctly remember having a computer lab back in the early 2000s with Mr. Hall, and we learned all of our computer fundamentals in computer lab. And I distinctly remember talking to other kids at other schools, and they didn't have that. And so it was a really cool treat that I knew how to use a computer at a time where computers were really changing and becoming more so what they are now. I remember we played computer games, like math games and things like that. And it was really cool our learning was digital then, really kind of took advantage of it at the time because not a lot of other kids in the district or even outside the district had progressed so far.
And in some ways, that's still true today with our district being one-to-one. If you go outside and talk to students outside the district, they also are not one-to-one. In Springfield, we're really blessed.
Yeah.
You also did your student teaching. Now, did you use any technology while you were student teaching?
No. That was a big scary. That was I just need to figure out how to teach and then I'll figure out the rest. And so definitely my first year of teaching, I started to use it a little bit more. And I would say now I use it all the time. After 4 years, it's definitely been, a slow progression, a gradual release, I would say, into feeling comfortable to integrating it into my lessons and using it daily.
Just so I'm still gathering my head around all of this, you've taught for 4 years, 2 at Kensington, 2 here, and prior to that, you were in college becoming a teacher.
Yes.
So you really have been in Springfield that whole time.
Yep. I went to college in Boston, but I worked it so I could student teach here. So even though I did most of my undergrad studies in Boston, I ended up graduating early, and it all worked out that I could student teach here and just travel to Boston for my weekly seminar, and so I still got to come back here where I wanted to be.
Nice. I love that you wanted to be here and you wanted to teach here, and now you are. So at Kensington, 4 years ago, that was the introduction of Brightspace and started the introduction of one-to-one. So what were some of the tools that you had been using to start with?
I think it was mainly just Brightspace. We just kind of understanding how to take the test online and that whole format was really about all I had conquered. And using a smart board for myself and utilizing it as a tool in the classroom to teach. And it was a little intimidating because I wasn't really sure how things would work. And Brightspace was new for everybody. So everybody plus me learning my curriculum plus Brightspace was whoa, what is happening? So that was a little overwhelming. But then in my second year, I had felt that I became a slight Brightspace master, and I had my students doing discussion boards on there and things like that. And I feel like I really exploded and was wow, this is how this can be used. And now I've even progressed in my third year where if I'm absent for a PD or something, I use Brightspace to pretty much teach for me. I leave up there the notes they need to take and links to places they can go and learn without me. It's pretty involved and it takes a lot of planning on my end, especially it wouldn't work if I had to be out, unexpectedly. But if it's for a reason I know I'm going to be out, I really like to plan for that. So that way that day of teaching isn't lost because they know how to use Brightspace and I'm giving them all their tools and it's the perfect format for me to not be present, but still accomplish what needs to happen.
You mentioned discussion boards. I know oral discourse is very important, especially in these upper elementary grades, so that they're able to articulate their point of view. How do you feel that the discussion boards has either helped or hindered that?
With that particular group of students, it was gradual. At first the responses were very minimal and it at least could lead to an oral discussion later on. So, if I, particularly in a guided reading group, I would post the questions, they would give a quick general response. But then once we got to our groups together, we could really be well, you said this and I said this and we agree or disagree. And it allowed to build to that oral discussion and everybody came feeling prepared. And then by the end of the year, it turned into, I was reading pages and pages of discussion because that discussion was the same as it was orally as it was digitally.
That's awesome. Do you think that's because, as you know, with the district, we've been moving towards taking our tests online, and now with the state and MCAS 2.0 being online, do you feel like those discussion board discussions kind of help the students get into the practice of like writing longer pieces? Because as you said, you were starting to read much more as the year went on.
Absolutely. And I think our kids have a lot of experience and exposure to technology, but they don't necessarily have the exposure to typing and expressing their learning with these tools. So it really helped them to get into that groove of, well, if I could do it for my discussion board that I do every day, I can do it on a test. I just have to put my thoughts into words, and instead of saying them or writing them on paper, now I just have to type them. And getting over that hurdle of typing and, well, my fingers hurt. And it's like, your fingers would hurt if you were writing too. So let's just shift and progress a little. So it definitely has helped in terms of getting them to the point where they understand, okay, I know how to type. I know how to express my ideas. I get how the computer is going to help me do that.
That's awesome. So that was over at Kensington. Did you teach 5th grade over there too?
Yep.
So 5th grade there, 5th grade here. What have you done now here, this being your second year at Mary Lynch?
This year, I'm in a whole new world because I have a brand new smart board. So that's like revolutionized everything. And I feel like in my world, because last year I lived entirely without a smart board. So I feel like I took a huge step back without having that piece. But with this board in particular, I can essentially screenshot my notes for the day and I post them onto Class Dojo. And it allows parents to ask me clarifying questions. And with the one-to-one computers, if a student forgets their notebook at home to do their homework, they can just log on to their personal profile for Class Dojo, see what I posted, and go, oh yeah, and now there's no excuse about getting homework done or not being sure how to approach the homework at the very least. There's a big clarification piece in that, which is really cool.
That's awesome. As this year has started to progress, I think we were discussing before, 7 weeks in or so. What are some tools that you haven't introduced to the students yet that you are looking forward to doing?
I feel like there's a lot. So with this year, having 3 field trips already and the half days, I feel like that's really set us behind. And so now we're getting into the piece where we're going to start exploring the website. There's so many websites we haven't touched, like Epic for reading. We have done Padlet and we've done Brightspace because we've had tests on there, but we haven't gotten to the point to start discussions on Brightspace, which I really want to integrate with this group of students. And I really want to get them, as 5th graders, we have the hockey piece, so EverFi is really cool, and just getting them to explore outside iReady. They really love iReady and they get to their goal every week, but really giving them those other options with Prodigy and EverFi and things like that, getting them excited about those other formats. And they really love Kahoot, so kind of getting them to the point where they can create their own Kahoots rather than me making them for them, because they like that little bit of competitive piece in it.
Yeah, and Kahoot is great for reviews too.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I was teaching, my final year, it was when I learned about Kahoot. And I would have students sitting in the back of the room when they started their Kahoot who would end up, when we were doing it, they would end up in the front of the room because they felt that if they were sitting closer, they could get the answer faster.
Absolutely. Which
is hilarious to me because you could just see the progression. But at the same time, we could stop and use it as a learning tool too.
Absolutely.
Be like, what didn't you understand?
I used it, I started doing it, I don't know if I did it my first year, but using Kahoots as a way to get to know me. So I asked really personal questions and then put 3 random answers, oh, what's my sister's name, for instance, something they would never know in a million years. And it's they get so excited about whether they were right or wrong just by their random guess. And so it really turns into a really fun way to bond. And then you can even see who had the most amount of correct guesses at the end. And it's really fun bonding for the first week of school.
That's awesome. I know we are in the middle of the school day, and we've been talking about stuff that you've done in the past, and we've looked at some things that you're looking at introducing into the future. Next year, we're going to be moving away from Brightspace. Have you taken a look at Unified Classroom at all yet? Or?
I haven't even touched it yet because I knew the PD was coming in January, so I plan to really dig deep. I think right now I'm more focused on the switch to Gradebook Pro for myself. Really utilizing that because from what I have done, I think it's streamlining everything I've already done and it's making my life 1,000% easier. So really trying to conquer that at the moment. And then I feel as soon as I get a little glimpse of Unified, I guess I have been a little hesitant because I have been, Brightspace is my first format that I know. But
Right.
I am excited for a switch to something that seems like it'll be even more user-friendly and even easier to use. And I'm not sure how the students will get there, but I definitely think, because I enjoy technology, that at the very least I can help my kids introduce them to Unified Classroom before the year is over.
Yeah.
And, if it's June and we try and take those unit tests through Unified instead of Brightspace, I think that's a small and reasonable goal to kind of prepare them, because obviously when they go to middle school, they're going to make that shift.
Right.
So kind of preparing them and me, a little bit for both, and we'll hopefully get something out of it.
I think you'll really like it based on the stuff that you've been doing with Brightspace. It'll be a lot easier to use. Our final question of the day, I ask this to everybody. If you had the opportunity to stand in front of new hires, which you recently went through since you've been in teaching for 4 years, so in the last 4 years, you definitely were in that training. What advice would you give those fresh to Springfield teachers?
Explore the technology and think of technology as your friend, for sure. Like, the difference between my first year, I feel like I probably made 1,000 photocopies of things, and now it's to the point where I've cut that number in half because let's go use online, like thinking as 21st century learners and digital learners, we really need to make that shift. And I feel like I had a digital exposure when I was a kid and in school, but now it's so different. And so we can't be afraid or feel like we need to be stuck in, what we know. And I get that I'm not that old, but it's still a different generation. So now it's like they know so much more about technology. So don't be afraid to expose them to it and try and be patient. These things take a long time. Like, setting up passwords and things like that can be really daunting at times, especially if it's not a website we necessarily have through the city where you have to remember the passwords on your own. That can get a little tedious, keeping track and things like that. So creating an organization system to manage those pieces of it, eventually by the end of the year, it'll be so smooth and easy to do, and it'll be an enjoyable experience to see them be like, oh, well, I use that tool. And so I think that would be my best advice, is just kind of get organized and be patient and just see what's out there. You never know. And what works for me won't necessarily work for the next person. So don't feel intimidated that someone does something that you're still a little hesitant on.
It's a lot of great advice. Thank you again for taking time out in the middle of your day. I know that right now your students are in science, so this is your prep period. So again, just want to thank you.
Thank you.
With this interview of the week, I am always astounded at teachers who have gone through the Springfield Public School system, K-12, gone off to college, became a teacher, and then came back. It is super inspiring, because I know there are many students out there who are going through school now who are like Patricia and want to come back and be able to inspire and engage the next generation of Springfield students. So that was really great to see. Even the fact that going out to school in Boston, she made sure that she was able to do her student teaching in Springfield. I mean, that's like a 2-hour drive most days, if you're lucky, with Pike traffic, of course. So that was really cool to hear, and all the great stuff that she is doing in the classroom, again, will be linked in show notes, and so I hope you check them out. So wrapping up today, I just want to remind you that you can find me out on Instagram and Twitter at Bearded Tech Ed or Bearded Tech Ed Guy, depending on which platform you're using. They didn't like the extra 3 letters. You can find me there. You can also find work that we're doing posted in the We Learn blog. I hope that you go out there and take a look. And I just want to challenge you on Fridays, coming up again this coming Friday, is Favorite Quote Friday. And I always like to think of this as a great way to be inspired and be inspiring. So I challenge you to go out there, find it, like it, give it a thumbs up, whichever site you're on. I think Twitter's a heart. And I also encourage you to post your favorite quotes for the month of December out on Twitter or Instagram. You can use a cool tool like Adobe Spark to create a fancy little post like you'll see when you see mine. So again, Bearded Tech Ed Guy, you can find it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook if you're a Facebook user. Thank you again for listening. If you like us, go out onto iTunes or Stitcher or Spreaker or iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to us. Give us a thumbs up, give us a 5-star rating. I'm Mike Thomas, and this is the SPS Digital Learning Hour.